Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about MSI, and we talked about MSI yesterday when they unveiled their brand new gaming handheld, the Claw. It was just a teaser video, we didn't get a good look at the device. And today, the image of the device has leaked, as well as some specs. So taking a closer look at the image, and one of the very first things I'm noticing here are buttons, physical buttons on the left and right hand side of the screen. And I'm seeing the bezel here. It does look a little bit thick. I don't know if this is just a rendering or if this is actually how the device is going to be. There are no touch pads, and the D-pad here, I don't know if it's going to be to everyone's liking. Honestly though, to me this looks a lot like an Asus ROG Ally, even right down to the D-pad. However, the Claw has one major difference, and that's with the CPU. Where Valve, Lenovo, and Asus all went with AMD, MSI here is going with Intel, and this CPU is nothing to scoff at. Just for reference, the Steam Dex CPU has 4 cores and 8 threads. The Legion Go and the ROG Ally have 8 cores and 16 threads. And this Claw is going to have 16 cores and 22 threads. Does that mean more cores and threads are better? Maybe yes and maybe no. I mean, take a look at these Geekbench scores for the Intel 7 Ultra 155H. That's the CPU that's in the Claw. We'll compare them with a recent test from the Asus ROG Ally that has an AMD Z1 Extreme. So here for the Claw, we've got 2403 single core score. For the ROG Ally, we've got a higher single core score at 2502. And for a multi-core score, we've got 11543 for the Claw, and a slightly lower 11467 for the ROG Ally. To be clear though, Geekbench does not paint the full picture. There are a ton of other things to consider. Thermals, whether or not it's going to run hot and throttle. The power that it's sucking, for example, the Steam Deck can go up to 15 watts. The Asus ROG Ally and Legion Go take 30 watts. And I'm not quite sure what the wattage is of this CPU. I think they tested it around 28 watts, give or take. But in theory, it goes up to 115, although I don't think we'll see that in the handheld. And the last thing to consider here is that the MSI Claw has 32 gigs of RAM, as opposed to 16 gigs in the Steam Deck, Legion Go, and ROG Ally. I'm not going to lie here, I am very curious to see how the Claw does against the competition, how Intel is going to do against AMD in the handheld market. Are the fans going to be loud on this? How are the thermals? How are the drivers? How is MSI's support? There's a lot to consider here. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about the Steam Deck, next up we're talking about the Steam Deck. And if you head on over to SteamDB and take a look at Steam Deck games that are playable and verified, there's over 13,000 games. This is an amazing number, and it's grown quite a bit in the last year. Now, I would argue that number is even higher than what's published. I mean, I've got NASCAR Heat 5 on my Steam Deck, and it's fully playable. It runs absolutely fine, provided you turn down the graphics a little bit. However, for deck verified status, it's listed as unsupported. On top of that, Gaming on Linux noticed that 75 out of the top 100 most played Steam games work on the Steam Deck. Although the Steam Deck is arguably a little bit older and a little bit less powerful than some of the other handhelds out there, I still recommend getting one. Valve has done an amazing job optimizing the software and hardware as best as possible and getting absolutely everything they can out of it. And it does continue to get better, and in fact I'm currently using it to film this YouTube video. Here are my current statistics. I'm almost at a RAM at the time of filming, but at the same time here, the Steam Deck is a fantastic unit. And speaking about YouTube, next up we're talking about Mickey Mouse, specifically the Steamboat Willie version of him. The one that's no longer under copyright considering it's been longer than 95 years. Well, apparently Disney did not get the memo and they copyrighted Brock Baker's video. I was gonna have more to this segment, but Brock Baker fought the copyright claim and actually won. Disney released it. Now I'm guessing one of two things here. One, either Disney is slow on the uptake to stop their copyright sniffers from going after Steamboat Willie, Or number 2, they're purposely going slow to try to not have people post all of these things right out of the gate. I mean, Mickey Mouse is still their IP. Next up, we're talking about GameCube and Wii emulation with Dolphin. And if you ever visit their website and read their amazing blog, well, it's about to change. The Dolphin Blog has been around for about 10 years, and the main authors on this have life commitments. They're very busy people, and the last time they wrote it took about 4 weeks to do. A lot of time. The Dolphin team is actively looking for volunteers to continue on the blog and to move it forward, and if you're interested, I'll drop a link in the description below and feel free to check it out. Moving on, and we're talking about PlayStation 3 emulation with RPCS3, and this one is pretty quick, but RPCS3 just got a neat little feature. So as of the latest version, they've added in present support. They say it should be easier to join games people in your friends list are playing. And speaking about updates, next up we're talking about REDREAM, and someone sent this news in to me that REDREAM got a brand new update. And checking out their website, they absolutely did. Unfortunately, I have no changelog. So on their downloads page, the latest stable release was 4 years ago, version 1.5, and the latest development build is version 1.5.0-1081, just released. Taking a look at the changelog on their website, it was last updated in 2020, and taking a look at their GitLab, and the latest information I have here is from 6 days ago, which is well before this release. Now, switching from not having a whole lot to go over to having a lot to go over. Next up here, we're talking about XMen, the arcade game being ported to Sega Saturn. I'll drop a link to this article in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. There are some very interesting things in this article you may be interested in. I would argue the port is looking pretty good. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Moving on, and we're into the rapid fire stuff. And first on the docket, speaking about ports, is the Spider-Man 2 PC port, unofficial PC port. We've talked about this one in the past. This is the result of the Insomniac leaks. There is sound, there is gameplay, but there are very little textures. As far as I know, it's going to be very difficult to port those textures from PS5 to PC, and we may never see them unless Insomniac does it. Next, this one is crazy, but also awesome. So someone's got the Android version of Yuzu on their Samsung Galaxy S23. And Samsung has an app called Dex, and you can basically use that to project your phone onto a TV. Well, someone's got Yuzu up and running here using Dex, so essentially turning their phone into a docked switch. Next, we're again talking about the 13-year-old that beat Tetris on the NES, the first person in the world to do so. We talked about them the other day when they actually did it. And then we talked about them yesterday when this news reporter decided to say, you know what, they should go outside and get some fresh air, and that beating Tetris was not a life goal. Well, it turns out today we've got even more information about the situation. Apparently, the 13-year-old dedicated the entire achievement to his father, who passed away last month. Let that sink in. I don't know if this newscaster feels bad, but yikes. Moving on, and if you've got a Mister or if you've got an analog pocket, you might be excited to know that the NeoGeo Pocket Beta Core has just released. Although I think it is stuck behind a paywall. As far as I know, since it's still in beta, it's not 100% perfect just yet, but this is a nice step forward and a big win for the Mister and also the Analog Pocket. Moving on, and if you play World of Demons on Apple Arcade, you might not be happy to know that this game is ending service, less than 3 years after it was released. There's not a whole lot of information on their blog, but as of January 18th, you'll no longer be able to download the game on Apple Arcade. And as of February 1st, downloads of the game will become unavailable to play. And last up here, if you play League of Legends, you're probably not going to like what 2024 has in store for you. Riot is bringing Valorant's anti-cheat system to League of Legends, the Vanguard anti-cheat system, the kernel-level anti-cheat system. I would argue this is horrible news if you actually play this game on Linux, or if you play this game on older hardware. The kernel driver here might not necessarily play nice with your system. Obviously, we're going to find out about any impact once it's fully integrated with League of Legends. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. What are your thoughts about an anti-cheat at the kernel level, one that boots up when your PC boots up? one that's arguably active when your PC isn't even using Valorant. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.